Hello and welcome to Random Acts of Poetry. Excuse me. I've not done a online YouTube poem for quite some time, maybe 2 weeks. Partly because my daughter's been staying with me for the Easter holidays. And partly because of a comment. Little did I know that putting my work on YouTube could lead to such tenacity. Tenacity, that's the wrong word. Such bloody tribulations. I'm so glad it wasn't my kung fu that I put out there. Seeing the passage of fire that my fellow martial arts teachers have to parade through on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, back to poetry. When I first started writing poetry, and it was, believe it or not, a long time ago, I suppose I was your classic 20-something adolescent male, not quite a man, as manly as you think when you're 20 or 21. You ain't got that strength, sunshine. Started writing poetry, and those poems, they're out there. True to form, it was actually, I guess, inspired by a girl, Rebecca. What was that surname? Anyway, I came to the conclusion, or rather I gave myself this idea that a poem needed to be short, or rather just the right length, needs to be long enough to get an intricate message across, but yet punchy enough. And consequently, I used to choose a A5 notebook to limit the number of lines that I could write. I played around with sonnets, nice sort of tidy little piece. A perfect example of a perfect, well, I'd love to say a perfect poem. And who am I to question the great William Blake? But in Auguries of Innocence, and maybe there is something that I'm missing in the rest of his poetic musings. The opening 4 lines, that first stanza, is everything that a poem should be. It's not this pithy insta poetry. And I say that with quite a bit of venom, and it probably is down to my own envy of their success and my addiction to the likes. So Auguries of Innocence is quite a long poem. I had to find this in a book of Great English Verse. I can't find my copy of William Blake. Great inspiration though. Wrote the theme tune, published the book, sang the hymns, stumbled around on a bridge and got stoned to death. He wrote this, and this is probably, it's a very famous 4 lines. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold affinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. And he goes on then, finding other little stanzas. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dove house filled with doves and pigeons shudders held through all its regions. It's long. It's long. And it's summed up in those first 4 powerful lines. So anyway, that was my quest to write the perfect poem. Unlike this video, which is not, it's going to be the longest video ever. But a lot's been going on, and a lot needs talking about, and a lot needs sharing. You know, we've got the Extinction Rebellion going on. We've got Brexit in this country, or whatever it wants to be called, whatever it wants to call itself this week. The Ramonas versus the Brexiteers. What else have we got going on? Climate change. This is a shocker. Anyway, I say that like as if it's new. We only had 50 years worth of oil 50 years ago. Anyhow. So anyway, I got a comment. And it's nice to get comments. I'm not really used to it. It's quite, it's all very new to me, this YouTube poetry. And I got abused by somebody. That was quite exciting. But it turns out they weren't actually abusing me. Anyway, this is not an abuser. This is a lovely comment by a chap called Jake. And he shares with me about how he writes poetry, or how he wrote poetry. He did get a little bit crass, but hey, God, he's a man and he's allowed to get crass. He said that his poetry was all about dick wetting. And I guess it sort of is, until you get your dick wet. And then you've got to be careful what you wish for. Anyhow, enough about crudity. And he asked me to read a poem, and I misunderstood what he was asking. He was just asking me to read the poem. So I read it, and I wrote back to him, and I said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to read that out. And the more I've read this poem, the more enamoured and the more in awe of it I am. It's a lovely little piece. I really do wish that I'd written it. And I think part of the reason why I've not been so keen in posting is dealing with this verse. It doesn't need anything. It's a verse, and it is absolutely bob on. So Jake, if you've made it this far into the video, I can't even start to bore myself. Here's your poem. It's untitled, by Jake. If by chance my thoughts of love are but death's dance of shadows falling, step to the music, my soul alone. No, screen died. I've been at it that long. I'm going to have to start again, because I tell you what, reading it out loud, it's even better. Jake, you've written a beautiful piece of poetry here. If by chance my thoughts of love are but death's dance of shadows falling, step to the music my soul alone does make. End my song and let me join the circle's throng, so that I may find solace amongst other silhouettes opaque. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Really nice, Jake. Thanks for sharing that, dude. I really do think that you should get back to writing your poetry. And write more poetry. Don't worry about getting your dick wet. Have a shower, you'll be fine. So yeah, this brings me to my next poem. Moments in time, things that happen, lessons that we learn, moments that we share. So I wrote this poem, and the last sequence has been kind of really strange for me in the way that I've written it and the intention. I think they all kind of came very, very close together. And I wrote this, and I decided to call it Calliope. You have to excuse my pronunciation, because it's all Greek to me. Calliope, or Calliope, Calliope, Lope. Anyway, enough of me practicing my ma. What I found out after writing the poem and calling it Calliope. It sounds like echo, but not as attractive. Calliope. Maybe somebody can come back to me on this one. That'll be interesting. Anyway, and I called it Calliope because I was reading the David Gemmell book about Troy. And I love David Gemmell, he's a great writer. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to call this poem Calliope. Calliope. Little did I know that the unpronounceable Calliope, or Calliope, is actually the muse of poetry. How things come together. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. I'll crack on with my poem, Calliope. Jake, by the way, once more. Nice poem. Calliope. Rarely do I set out to write a poem with such certainty. Words expressing the excitement felt when the muse burst onto the page. An art form possessed that surpassed age. Honed as confidence grows, sowing a path towards a new stage of growth. Embracing the power of the spiral within this western arm. Impulse words thin when embroiled, laced tightly into this marionette display. The performers move through puppetry, setting their souls free. In that moment of sinuous movement, wrapped within the enticing breath of seduction, the hero is drawn into fate's sacred lair, laying the soul bare for a temptation which is able, yet so unaware of the spells yet to be cast. In the flash of an eye, a smile of honey baits the trap. The poet flourishes a finish at last.